Hello, in today's video I am sharing everything I learned with you in my first month of meal planning. Hello and welcome. My name is Rebecca, and on this channel I'm sharing my journey with you. So that's everything from gardening to cooking, making the switch to natural products, organization, crafts, and so much more. So if that sounds like something that you are interested in, please consider subscribing. So meal planning, let's get into it. I mentioned in a video once before that I did try meal planning at the beginning of last year. I never got very serious about it and I never stuck with it. So it was a month-long quest that did not go very well and I never did it again after that. So this year, as part of my intention setting for 2023, I wanted to start meal planning again. I definitely still have some tweaking to do in my process, but I wanted to share with you the things that I've learned so far in my first month and share some tips with you and some things I've learned along the way, especially if you're just getting started as well. I know that meal planning can seem overwhelming, which is why that I'm hoping if I share my journey with you, you will pick up some tips along the way so it doesn't seem so overwhelming to get started. And if you hate going to the grocery store as much as I do, this is actually going to end up saving you trips as well as money in the long run. Be sure to stay tuned to the end of this video to find out how much money I actually saved in my first month of meal planning. Okay, so first things first, if meal planning seems like it's a little bit intimidating to you because you don't have the proper tools, you're not quite sure where to start, you do not need some big fancy planner or special worksheets if you're just getting started. I literally planned my first month of meal planning on one sheet of paper. It is not pretty, it is not aesthetically pleasing, but it worked for me. And so if you're held back by thinking that you need to have some special piece of paper or some printout or some worksheet, you don't need to do that. You can literally just get started with a sheet of paper. With that being said, I probably will print out a month-long calendar for next month, just so I have an entire view of what the whole month looks like. So I'm not having to flip back and forth and I have everything in a calendar view. So it's important to note here that my plan only includes me going to the grocery store every 2 weeks. So when I was doing my meal planning, I was planning on a 2-week period of me getting everything that I needed from the grocery store. So I wasn't making extra trips back and forth. Plus, I'm doing this no spend January, which is coming to an end, thank goodness. And one of the things I didn't want to do was be making extra trips because ultimately you just end up spending more money when you do that. So since I'm not working with any sort of fancy worksheet or anything, I literally just wrote down the days of the week and whether or not I had my kids for those days because they do spend some time with their dads. So that changes what our menu looks like and how much I have to make depending upon how many people are actually going to be here for dinner. Going forward, when I use my calendar as a template, I can put in the days that I have them, which days I don't, which days there's practices and appointments, so I can keep track of things like that so I have a better idea of how to plan my meals each day. While we were all sitting down for dinner one night, I asked everybody for 3 meal suggestions of things that they would like to eat during the next 2 weeks. I jotted those down into my note-taking app on my phone, and then I started filling in the dates on my paper with the suggestions that I had gotten from everybody. Once I completed filling in the 2 weeks of meals, I then went through each day, and on the opposite side of the paper, I wrote down all the ingredients that I would need for that meal. And if I was using a new recipe, I made sure that I went through the recipe to make sure I had all the ingredients that I needed. Typically what I do is keep a running grocery list on the notepad on my phone. That way when we run out of things or I notice that something is running low, I just jot it down right in my phone and I have it. But since I've started meal planning, I actually have been using a paper list. So what I do once I have all the ingredients and things written down for the meals that I've chosen for the next 2 weeks, I write those all down and I take everything from my phone app, I put them all on a piece of paper and I write them down in order of how the store is. So right when you walk in, there's bananas. So bananas are always first on my list. It just makes sense so that you're not scattered and all over the place when you're going through the grocery store. So I unfortunately do have to shop at 2 grocery stores because I can't always get everything I need at the first store. So I start at Aldi, and because I can't afford to shop at Wegmans all the time. So I start at Aldi, I get everything that I need there. So I ultimately have 2 lists. So I'll have a front and back of a list. Like here's the front of my list, and then on the back I have everything I need from Wegmans. If I cannot find it at Aldi, I cross it off and I write it on the back of my list for Wegmans. So I make sure that I'm getting everything that I need and I'm not making extra trips to the store. When I'm making my grocery list, I also make sure that I'm going through the fridge and the pantry to take inventory of anything else that we may need for those next 2 weeks. So as far as the actual planning goes, that's pretty much it. I plan my meals, I write everything down, I make sure I have all the ingredients that I need, and I make my list. But I have learned a couple other things along the way that I wanted to share with you. I know that what works for me might not necessarily work for you, especially if you're not on a 2-week trip to the grocery store plan like I am. So if you're going grocery shopping every week, your meal planning could look a lot different than mine. But I hope in sharing these ideas and tips that I can help you along the way. So first of all, get your family involved, whether that's children, your husband and wife or spouse, whoever's living in your home, get them involved too so that they get to have some input, because you want them to enjoy the meals that you're ultimately going to make. Plus, it can be a lot of pressure to have all of the meal planning just on you. So if you're getting input from your family members, that can help you in your planning. Since I'm shopping for a 2-week period, I am buying a lot of produce. So what I learned is that you want to use your most vulnerable produce first. So things like zucchini and peppers and mushrooms, I'm going to use those for meals that I've planned in the beginning of that 2-week period. And then other things like broccoli, cauliflower, and carrots, I save towards the end of the 2 weeks because those are going to last a little bit longer. The one thing that I do not have a solution for yet is buying enough fresh fruit to have it last the entire 2 weeks and have it not go bad. So I need to do some more research into how to keep things like strawberries last a little bit longer, bananas as well. Those are 2 of the biggest fruits that my kids eat. So if you have any tips on how you make your fresh fruit last longer, I would greatly appreciate them. The next thing I learned is to plan for the unexpected and then be flexible with your meal planning. So I had several instances over the past month where things came up that I was not necessarily prepared for. We had some family come over for dinner, and luckily I was able to throw together a meal for them. If you have children and they end up having friends over, they are going to eat all of the snacks in sight. So you want to make sure you have a plan in place for that as well too. So definitely having extras on hand is not a bad idea if your budget allows for it. Another thing I learned is that your ingredients are going to last longer and go further if you plan like meals. So things like Mexican and Italian, a lot of times those use the same ingredients. So if you're planning meals around the same cuisine, you can take that half a jar of tomato paste, maybe that you needed for one recipe, and plan on using it for another recipe so you're not wasting it. One of the reasons that I'm meal planning to begin with is so that I can save money. So if it's not on my list, I'm not buying it, which is definitely something new for me. Typically, I will end up buying several things at the store that I don't need, but in this new plan, if it's not on my list, I'm not getting it. Meal planning can seem like a chore, but it really doesn't have to be. And you can get creative with it and have fun with it. Try new recipes, try things you've never done before. I've made probably 2 or 3 new recipes in just the last month, and coming up for the next month, I do have a couple other recipes that I plan on trying. So dust off your old recipe Pinterest board, see what's on there, and get creative and have fun with it. Also, if you have something that you need and you don't have it, maybe get creative and try a different ingredient instead of running right to the store and picking up what you need. So like I mentioned, meal planning can save you a ton of money. When I was not meal planning and I was shopping every week, I would try to come up with, a couple of meals during the week and then buy the ingredients that I needed for that, but it never failed that I either didn't have a plan for one day or I didn't have everything I needed for the lack plan that I did have. So this has definitely saved me a ton of money. It has saved me a ton of trips to the grocery store because I'm only going every 2 weeks, and I've been very, very strict about that. So unless I've had to like pick up a prescription, I have not gone to the grocery store for anything. So since I have started meal planning, I have saved over $500, $534 to be exact. What I did as a part of my No Spend January is I went back through my bank statement from January of 2022, and I looked at all of the money that I spent to see where I was spending it, so I could have a comparison for when I finish No Spend January. And one of the things that I did while I was looking at my bank statement was taking a look at all of the money that I spent at the grocery store. So last January, I spent over $1,200 at the grocery store for a family of 4 with 2 pets, which seems outrageous to me. Even with inflation and the cost of eggs now, I was able to save over $500 just by actually having a meal plan put together. Also, I don't know what was going on last January with me, but I did Instacart a lot, which does add extra money to your grocery bill. So you're paying a delivery fee and you're paying a tip. So those are added things that I don't have to worry about anymore because I'm not doing Instacart, although I do love the convenience of it. So saving over $500 alone is enough to make me want to continue meal planning, which is definitely something that I will be doing. I actually do have my non-fancy sheet of paper for the groceries that I'm buying today. I have 2 weeks of groceries here and all the ingredients that I need. And then once I put together my final list, I mark off everything from my ingredients list here so that I make sure that I'm not forgetting anything. So in addition to saving money, I'm also saving time and I'm saving gas money because I'm not making extra unneeded trips back and forth to the grocery store. I'm not spending money on things that I don't need, and in the long run, I'm getting peace of mind that I don't have to come home from a long day of work and try to figure out what I'm gonna make for dinner real quick before I get the kids off to practice. So I 100% recommend, if you have not started meal planning yet, that maybe it's something you should consider as well. I really hope that some of these tips that I've shared with you will help you along your meal planning journey. I know that what I do won't necessarily work for everybody else, but I hope I shared something with you that was of value, and if I did, please be sure to hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of my upcoming videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.